Hey, what's up guys? It's Tony here, and today I'm bringing you the tutorial of how to assemble the adv2. I hope you guys are having a wonderful holiday, and congratulations on receiving the adv2. So without further ado, let's get started. You're gonna find some gloves in the box, and you are going to wear it first, just in case you hurt your hands. And we are going to take the fender base out of the box first, so you can take the board out. And then you are gonna find a standard charger cable here. Set it aside, and you will find your new version of the standard charger. Also set it aside. Of course, if you have the launch edition of the adv2, you're gonna have a free hypercharger coming in another box. Now we can take out the toolkit. Those are the tools you're gonna need. But today we are going to use the power tools instead. If you have a power tool, that's gonna be really helpful. But if you don't have any power tools, you're gonna have a 18mm spanner and a Phillips screwdriver by your side. Other than that, all the tools are provided. And you're gonna find 2 bags of screw, one for installing the wheels, and the other bag of screw are for the fender base. So the first thing we're gonna do is remove the right side of the rail. But to remove the right side rail, you're gonna remove the front and rear foot pad and bumpers. We're gonna start by removing the front and rear foot pad. You're gonna need a Phillips screwdriver to do it. And we flip the board over, and we are going to undo the 8 screws that holds the front and rear bumper. You can just leave the screws inside the bumper and set the bumper aside. The front and rear bumper, they are identical, so you can swap it around. And also do the same for the front bumper. Okay, now we flip the board over to remove the front and rear foot pad and set it aside. And now we are going to remove the 4 screws that holds the front and rear boxes to the rail. And now you can remove the right side of the rail. It's very simple, very easy to work on. If you have power tools, you can just get the most basic power tools from Amazon and should be good. And now we are going to remove the axle blocks from the rails, so we can install the blocks on the wheel. They're gonna be, you're gonna remove the 2 screws on the bottom of the axle blocks. Yep, just like that. And now you can set the blocks aside and put your boards aside. Now we are gonna grab our motors. Here you have the motors, and you remove the cables from the core and take away the packaging. And now we just grab any of the axle blocks because they are identical on both sides. So just use any of those, will be fine. Just install it here. Make sure the motor cable comes out on the right side. There is a slot for the cable to come out. And now we're gonna grab 2 short screws. Remember, there are two kinds of screws in the bag, the long one and the short one. We're gonna keep the long ones and use the short ones. So now we just fast forward as I tighten the two screws. The short ones, long ones are for the outside, the short ones are used here to attach the axle block to the wheel. Now we can find an Allen key here. That's H6 Allen key. And you need to tighten this up. And now you have to get the spanner, which is you're gonna bring your own. They are not provided in the toolkit. And now it's tightened. And flip it to the other side so we can install another axle block. It's the same to the right side. We are going to use the short ones, not the long ones. The long ones are for later when you attach the board to the wheel. Just use the Allen key we just used, tighten those up, and use a spanner to make sure it's fully tightened. Otherwise, it could be a pain in the ass to remove the wheel and to tighten the inner bolts. And now we can set the wheel straight up, sitting on the ground. And we just make sure the notch of the axle block goes up. And you can see the notch is gonna fit into the rails. Here's the notch. You're gonna match those two together and just sit the board on the wheel. And use your left hand to make sure they stay in place. And now you find those longer screws and put them in there. Use the Allen key just used and fast forward. It's all tightened up. And now you can rotate the board and lay the board on the ground on its left side rails. And you are gonna notice the motor cable is a little bit too long here. But don't worry, you can shove the cable inside the core a little bit. As you can see, I'm wiggling the motor cable inside to the core. You can wiggle and push it inside. As you can see here, you need to make sure the motor cable that has a logo on it, and the logo needs to match on the little triangle here. You can see it's a little bit too long still, so I'm pushing it in even further. So aim for the logo. And now you can see let me zoom in a little bit. You can see the arrows on this side is matching the other side of the triangle. And now you need to push in the motor cable and you can rotate the lock ring. The lock ring is gonna push the motor plug inside, but you still need to make sure that you wiggle the motor cable as you push in. So you make sure the motor cable goes all the way inside, and you rotate the locking ring until it no longer rotates. So there is an O-ring inside. We do this to make sure the O-ring is all the way seated. And now we can put on our right side rail. You just need to carefully align the notches and just wiggle parts here and there and give it a pat somewhere because it has some machining tolerances. Give it a little pat here and there. Make sure it's all snug. And now we grab our long screws and put in here and tighten it up using the Allen key. And now you can use a longer arm to make sure it's fully tightened. Now we can flip the board over, and now we're going to install the foot pad. And now we need to put back the 4 screws that holds the front and rear boxes to the right rails. Now install the front and rear footpad. And the front and rear footpad are using the Phillips screws. Don't use the wrong kind of screws. And we tighten those screws. Same for the rear footpad. Now we rotate the board over to install the bumpers. If you are using power tools, just use the minimum torque settings. Otherwise, you can damage the bumper by over-tightening the screws. And don't forget to put back the 4 M4 screws to hold the axle block to the rail. We're using 7 torque settings. And we flip the board over to install the mag handle. You can either install the mag handle on the left side or the right side, depending on whether you are a lefty. So most of the people install the mag handle on the right side, including me. If you are a lefty, then you're gonna install the handle on the left side. It's gonna be more convenient for you. First of all, we're gonna remove the pin of the mag handle. And we're gonna take out this little block. And those 2 screw holes are for installing the mag handle. You can just grab the handle, make sure it's in the right direction. Otherwise, it's not gonna work. Take out this little block here, make sure it goes in the same direction as I show you on the video. Now we use a power tool to tie this up. You can also add a few drops of Loctite in there, just to make sure. And you push the pin inside and wiggle until it drops into the right position. And now just tighten the screw and test if the handle works. And last, you can install your front and rear fender base. Put other screws on it. There are a total 8 of those screws. Remember, if you are using the power tools, remember to set the torque settings to the lowest gear. We see a lot of people damaging this part by over-torquing those screws. Alright, now we can turn on the board. Wait for a little bit. The boot up sequence, it's gonna take quite some time. And now we can put it on the ground and test it. Or you can test it on the table using hand. And now it seems it's balancing. And you can ride the board. That's all. Thank you for watching.